And I'll bet you're waking up this morning the way a lot of us are, still in shock and still can't really wrap our brains around what happened to Kobe Bryant yesterday and his 13-year-old daughter who died in that chopper crash. When I first heard the news yesterday, my son sent me a text, said he'd heard it reported on TMZ. I said that can't be true because no one else was reporting it. So you kept hoping against hope that it was wrong. And of course, it turned out to be very, very accurate. Very, very sad yesterday.
It's one of the hardest things for me has been looking at the pictures of Kobe and his daughter courtside. So many of them, they're just, I mean, it's just, my wife said to me, I can't look at them anymore. It makes me cry.
I know. We're all still crying today thinking about that news, and that's where we begin because the tributes are pouring in from around the world to Kobe Bryant. He was, as you know, an American icon whose cultural impact really goes far beyond the NBA. Bryant and his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, and 7 other people were killed yesterday when their helicopter crashed in California. So this news brought a massive crowd of people to the Staples Center, and they are still there, where Bryant led the Los Angeles Lakers to 5 NBA titles. The tributes continued inside at last night's Grammy Awards. From host Alicia Keys, she called it the house that Kobe built. She's right. And other performers.
On Twitter, former teammate Shaquille O'Neal said Bryant was so much more than an athlete, while Lakers legend Magic Johnson called him a mentor to both male and female players. President Trump tweeted he loved his family so much and had such strong passion for the future. And former President Obama said Bryant was just getting started in what would have been just as meaningful a second act. We begin our coverage with Jonathan Vigliotti, who is near the scene of the crash in Calabasas, northwest of downtown Los Angeles. Jonathan, what do we know so far about this investigation?
Anthony, I spoke with several witnesses who say the fog was so thick at the time of this crash they couldn't actually see the helicopter, but they could feel it and hear it. They said it was flying so low it caused many of the buildings here to vibrate. What ultimately caused this crash is still part of this ongoing investigation. The NTSB is expected here on the scene later this morning, and they do have their work cut out for them. The crash site is incredibly steep, and there was a magnesium fire that was sparked immediately after this crash that we are told destroyed much of the evidence.
This is worldwide, it isn't just Los Angeles. We're all hurting. It's a world of pain right now.
He meant happiness.
Basketball legend Kobe Bryant wasn't just one of the greatest to play the game.
Kobe ties the score with 2 seconds left.
He was admired by people around the world for his actions off the court as much as when he was on it.
God, you got a good one introducing the Black Mamba, Kobe Bean Bryant.
The retired NBA star was killed after his personal helicopter crashed into a steep hillside Sunday morning, killing everybody on board, including his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna.
As you can imagine, it's a logistical nightmare in a sense because the crash site itself is not easily accessible.
Debris from the charred helicopter was scattered across the size of a football field. The helicopter was flying in fog that was so thick the LAPD had grounded its helicopter fleet Sunday morning.
I think he was just completely disoriented. He couldn't see.
Scott Daler told us he heard the chopper going down and called 911.
It just slowly moved over here, turned on a track right towards that building, and the impact, I counted maybe 20, 25 seconds by the time it was vertical above me. And then I heard the impact about 25 seconds later.
Bryant, his daughter, and 7 other people were on their way to his Mamba Cup tournament, a boys and girls youth basketball league Bryant founded after he retired. Bryant was to coach his daughter Gianna's team. Among the victims identified on the helicopter, Orange Coast College baseball coach John Altobelli, his wife Carrie, and daughter Alyssa, Sarah Chester and her daughter Peyton, who was a teammate of Gianna Bryant's, and the pilot Ara Zobayan, along with the girls' assistant coach Christina Mauser. The retired Lakers shooting guard often called his daughter Gianna Mambacita after his own court nickname, Black Mamba.
Get fired up about it. We're going to have a good time.
And like her father, she inherited his love of basketball and hoped to one day play in the WNBA.
I'm still in shock, and I still can't believe that this is real.
We spoke to a group of players who participated in the Mamba tournament.
They meant a lot. Just 2 people I wanted to look up to.
When I arrived here at the scene yesterday morning, there were already hundreds of fans that were gathered here collectively mourning. I spoke with one of them who said, when we lose a hero, we gain a sense of our own mortality. And on that note, I want to bring in our national transportation correspondent, Kris van Cleave, who's following the investigation. Kris, what are we learning?
Well, good morning, John. The pilot was in touch with air traffic controllers. We know him to be an experienced pilot, but so far there are no reports of any kind of distress call, at least at this point. Now, the helicopter was a Sikorsky S-76. That is a respected, well-known high-end helicopter with a good safety record. The chopper circled Glendale for about 12 minutes before continuing on under special visual flight rules. A pilot requesting special VFR is taking on some added risk because they are opting to fly at a lower altitude and at lower visibility than under normal circumstances. That decision to continue this flight instead of waiting out the weather is going to be closely scrutinized. Remember, this pilot had 8 passengers on board and was flying towards hills that would require the chopper to gain altitude despite low-level clouds and fog. Now, at one point, air traffic controllers can be heard telling the pilot he's too low. That was in response to the pilot's request for ATC to follow his flight path on radar. It does not appear at this point that controllers were telling the pilot he was flying too low for the surrounding terrain. Once the NTSB gets here on scene, they're going to be looking for any sign of mechanical failure or anything else that could have factored into bringing this helicopter down. Tony?
All right, Kris, a lot of questions about that fog this morning. Thank you very much.